I had one friend recently break his back because he was like skating around a park, and there were a bunch of like really young girls just learning to skate for the first time, like roller skates, and they're like da 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 lottie dying around. And this old man, he's like in his mid 30s, and he
This
forgot how
old,
to move slower on a skateboard as he was skating around. He just forgot how to brake. And suddenly he was going right towards all these kids. And he had a choice between either plowing into four children or just like stopping and hurling himself to the ground. So he hurled himself to the ground and broke his back because he cracked it right his side right against some stairs.
I'd run over the
And
kids.
yeah, that's what I told him is just fucking hit the kids. They're tiny and soft. It's
Well,
Matt said that it would be like hitting four adolescent pillows. It's fine.
well, there's a whole thing about like skate parks and like people that are skating and then like kids that are toddling around not knowing what to do. There's got to be some kind like it's like having adult swim at a pool. You know what I mean?
Hmm. So yeah, that he's recovering from that. He can still walk, but he's having trouble like doing anything that's not laying down. And it's been about 2 months, and he's finally getting to where he can sit in a chair for about an hour at a time a day. And he's slowly learning. He's having to reteach himself how to do things like turn left and right, tie his shoes, very basic things like that.
Yeah.
So he was seriously injured.
See, I quit that. I tried to rollerblade, I guess like 3 years ago, and I
Mhm.
realized I was too old for rollerblading because I rollerbladed, couldn't stop, went down a cobblestone street, and then like took a hard left into a chain link fence. And then I fucking threw the rollerblades away and said, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, sadly, like in
Have you ever
my
rollerbladed down cobblestone? It's horrible.
I never got to rollerblade. Like that's one of my big regrets in life is that I never got to go rollerblading. Like I just that
Never
opportunity never
rollerbladed?
presented itself to me.
Would
No.
you miss all of
I
the
always
80s
wanted
and
to.
90s?
Yeah.
Okay,
Apparently.
well, hi, I'm Bobby.
I'm Peter.
And I'm Pat.
There we go.
All right, that's right. So do we do our intro now?
Yeah,
this thing good?
intro us. Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, out there in radio land. This is those Muckrakers coming to you live once again through the power of the internet. I'm Pat.
Again, I'm Pete.
I'm Bobby.
And this is
And
episode
I'm
118. And in today's episode, tell them what we'll be doing, Pete.
We're gonna talk about some stuff. There's some harrowing tales from the ocean. There's some stuff going on public transit. A lot of racism in this episode, a surprising amount of racism
in America? No.
and some really fun nuclear stuff that's going on.
Radioactive racism.
Radioactive racism.
Oh no, atomic racist, the new supervillain of this century.
Well, that's what it feels like. Let me go ahead and start out with that. So if you guys don't know, they developed this thing called the 1619 Project as a curriculum for schools to teach about basically people who have been erased from history. 1619, I think, was the year the first slaves were brought to the Americas, and then like slavery started from there. So it's this basic like kind of acknowledgement of the fact that our whole country was built on white supremacy. There's an argument that there are historical inconsistencies with the what do you call it? I guess some of the materials they use, which is like, all right, whatever, you can fix that. But there's been super pushback in a bunch of southern states because they're teaching my kids that it's bad to be white. And it's like, nah, they're just saying that like we kind of been built on a system of white supremacy, and maybe that's not good if you're not white.
Yeah, so is this getting back to like the Florida banning the teaching of critical race theory?
Yeah, it ties into critical race theory. Exactly. Yeah.
That's a 1619 project directly ties into critical.
Yeah. So like, yeah, they passed legislation like in Texas now. I think when you go to the DMV, there's a whole Texas appreciation thing they're doing where like you get your license and they give you a pamphlet on Texas and freedom. Which is funny because Texas was the whole thing was founded on the fervent desire to own slaves,
Subjugation and oppression of humans.
Yeah.
We in Texas believe in being free if you're white.
Texas was fine being part of Mexico until they were like, oh, just so you know, to be part of Mexico, you can't have your slaves. And then all of a sudden they were like, what?
USA, USA.
God damn it. Yeah, exactly. USA. So that,
if you don't like America, you can get out of Texas. But aren't you Mexico? Shut up.
We'll take it. If you don't like it, you can take it from Mexico. Texas, I don't know. Steal some land and then get out.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the Republican conservative idiot ball like right now.
Yes, going back to the old idiot ball shtick, where modern conservatism just does not work unless someone is carrying the idiot ball this week.
Yeah, something stupid that conservatives are outraged about. You know what I mean? Like, what was my favorite? Obama's tan suit. Remember Suitgate?
I
Yeah.
remember they got mad
Oh,
at that.
Obama,
I remember
sorry, Michelle Obama going sleeveless.
Sleeveless. Yeah. All of
or
those.
Obama wanting mustard one time whenever he got a snack from a place he went by to eat, and Sean Hannity was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. President. You need your hoity-toity mustard?"
To be fair to him, though, I did grow up in the age where they made us think that Grey Poupon meant you were rich as fuck. For a long
that and that ice cream cake thing. Do
Yeah.
you remember? It
Was
was
that-
like, and it had like ribbons of ice cream or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Like,
And it was
and-
shit you could get at your local supermarket.
and feeding your cat fancy feasts out of Waterford crystal.
Fancy
Those three
feast.
things were the height of
Yeah,
sophistication.
if you did that,
like-
you
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 were
were the
well
top
for yourself.
you were a what do you call it? You were a one percenter. If you ate Grey Poupon, you were a Habsburg, sir, in the 90s.
And after they pretended like they were so outraged by Obama's eliteness, and they tried to tell us that Trump's fine though, like he's not an elitist. The guy with the giant golden tower with his name on it, that's just the everyman. Just like we all have a giant golden tower with our name on it.
I just loved the photo. I love the photo. A friend of mine started posting it back in 2016. Whenever people were like, "Trump's a man of the people," he just kept posting this photo over and over again, and it's like the family portrait of like Donald is sitting in a chair, Melania is in like a designer dress, stacked up bracelets, a beautiful diamond necklace, diamond earrings in this gilded apartment, and Barron is over in the corner of the photograph. He's like 4 or 5 years old, being one of those like go-kart things at the mall, that are shaped like animals, but this one was a lion. And it was like, yeah, super relatable. They know what average people are going through. Like,
Yeah.
you
One
know
part of real estate billionaire mogul born in New York says that, doesn't say, "I understand the heart of flyover country."
Well, that was like the argument I heard the other day.
well,
I think
he
it was
used to own an airline. He understands flyover country because
he flew over it.
Yeah, he flew over it. There was a guy going, he was
Boston and
they go, he was a billionaire. Now you don't get $1 billion by being stupid. And I'm like, you do if someone gives it to you.
Yeah, you do. His dad was a billionaire, and he managed to get it probably by killing his own brother. That's very likely not true, but it could be. It's one of the conspiracy theories I don't tend to believe.
These are the same.
But it's possible he killed his own brother.
Allegedly, Trump family do not sue us. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
These are the same idiots during the Middle Ages would have been like, "Hey, how do you become king if God don't want it?" Now you tell me. That's just basic sense. If God don't want you to be king, then you don't be king.
Yeah.
Just like you can't argue with like stupid logic.
Manifest destiny. God wills it.
Well, you know that people are rich and out of touch when they can't do like basic human things like eat food that the rest of us eat,
or understand what paper towels are.
Right?
They were these big, white, beautiful towels.
Or go grocery shopping.
Oh. Hey, God, Trump thought that you needed like a photo ID to go grocery shopping. Remember? He said that. What do you mean they don't have photo IDs to vote? They have to have them when they go get their groceries, don't they?
The way we make
you've never been in a grocery store before, have you?
The way we make fun of rich people being out of touch in like popular fiction is exactly how out of touch like he was in real life.
Yeah, he is the character that a lot of fictional corrupt billionaires were based on.
What was the show where she
literally modeled? They literally modeled him after him.
He was literally the model for Biff Tannen.
Yeah. And he did make America like Biff Tannen's future.
Completely destroyed. He ran us into the ground. We ended, everyone just sort of hiding inside, hoveling, afraid to go outdoors. It was everything that we said was going to happen.
I love
that was America at the end, and complete with the fucking Viking guy storming into the Capitol, trying to take it over while the rest of America was shut down, literally.
I do enjoy him now with his like he's like a skinny little like horseshoe balding guy, and
Trump?
he's all no the shaman
The
that broke
Viking
into
man,
the
Q shaman.
Viking man that he looks so mighty in those photos, and then now he's just like all meek and like Mr. Trump. I thought he had my back. I was bamboozled. I'm not.
Yeah, no shit.
I shouldn't be here. I really want him to be guarded by that mean guard from Shawshank.
Yeah, you cut out.
I really want him to be guarded by that mean guard from Shawshank. Like the one that just the one that beats everybody because they're new and they need to learn.
Mm.
Oh, I never saw that movie.
You never saw Shawshank?
Never saw Shawshank Redemption?
Oh my god.
It's pretty good. It had
on
Morgan Freeman in it.
It was on in the background of my childhood.
I watch it I don't even care if I've just seen it. If it comes on like television, I'm like, I'm watching it.
I just like listening to Morgan Freeman. I can just listen to that and ignore the rest of the movie.
So in prison, and I can't even come up with a good way to tie this in. In oceanography news today.
Speaking of Shawshank Redemption, by which I mean speaking of swimming through sewage for miles to reach freedom, by which I mean speaking of swimming, the ocean.
Provincetown, a little before 8 a.m. A veteran lobster diver, Michael Packard, entered the water for the second dive of the day. He, I guess, dives down and picks lobster off the ocean floor, which I didn't know was a job.
They're bottom feeding water bugs. I mean, they're actually pretty gross to eat if you think about it. That's why they used to feed them to prisoners. Then they marketed them as a delicacy, and people thought, yeah, okay, sure, and they pay top dollar for them.
Well, he goes,
that's kind of like how like clams and oysters, well, oysters specifically, that used to be commoner food. And then we basically harvest them to near extinction, and now they're hoity-toity, or at least upper middle class.
Well, this guy says he was diving. All of a sudden, he felt a huge shove, and the next thing he knows, it was completely black. He thought he saw a giant white shark coming towards him, or a great white, but it turns out it was a whale. He got swallowed by a fucking whale, completely eaten by a goddamn whale.
Had to be by accident. Like it was just swimming by with his mouth open and he was just in the way.
Well, he goes, I thought to myself, he goes, there's no way I'm getting out of here. I'm dead. All I can think of was my kids. Which is sad, but I feel like my real thoughts, if I was swallowed by a whale, would be like, I can't believe I got swallowed by a fucking whale. And this is how I die.
Nature's gentle giant.
Like, how many? And no one's even going to know what happened to me. Like, and no one's even going to be like, man, eaten by a whale. Like, I'm gone. So he's all in his scuba gear, so he's just sitting in there like, what's up? And I guess the whale was like, what the fuck did I just eat? And so the whale, he was in there for like 40 seconds. The whale surfaced and like spit him out.
Whales tend to, their digestive system is built for plankton, not for people.
Yeah. Especially not a full-on diver. Yeah, it spit him out. The guy's fine. He's got some bruises, I guess, where the whale was just like.
Did he finally start teaching the word of God when he was spit up, though? That's the real question.
You know what? That would have been my second thing, would have been like, I got to go teach people the Bible now.
Yeah. Like God told me to, and I didn't listen.
Oh my God, no!
Fucking hell, I got eaten by a whale.
There was a really great TikTok. So some little Christian kid, he's like, he's like 20-something-year-old guy. He's like looking into his phone and he's crying, and he just goes, "If you don't tell everyone all the time about the love of Jesus, you either don't believe in it or you hate everyone around you." And then it just cuts to this one chick who's kind of getting popular on TikTok, and she just looks down and goes, "Both," and then just do 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 do.
I wouldn't even teach people about the Bible because I believe in it. I just think no one's gonna have a better fake televangelist preacher background story. I was literally eaten by a whale.
I'm gonna make,
yeah.
Especially if someone was like photographing this shit happening, and then like you could be like the guy who was spit up. You're like, I am Jonah. Come.
You know how much money I could make just going on stage and be like, I've been eaten by a whale. Give me your money.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Like,
so was there anything else in the story? Like you sped out and
no, he was spit out. He went to the hospital. They're like, you're good. And he's like, I'm good. And
did they believe him when he walked in there and he's like, I was eaten by a whale?
Yeah. There was like a guy on a boat with him who saw the whale come up and like spit him out. Like, You know what I mean? Like,
How surprised was he? Was he with the guy like when he
Sorry,
went
that's
under?
yours.
man, I'd be trying to get my phone out so quick. I'd be so mad that I didn't have. I'd be like, I missed watching Wilder get spit out of a whale.
If I like saw him get sped out by the well, I would have fished him into my boat and then been like, "Aren't you glad you like taste gross?"
Man, I'm glad I didn't shower today. Yeah, no, it's just like the most interesting. Also, apparently, there is a Cape Cod Times.
Yeah, yeah,
I did
I
not
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that. I've been doing this thing now where I read an article and then I research it using other news sources. Because for some reason the Daily Mail keeps coming up on my feed, and I'm like, I gotta.
Watch that. Whenever you posted the Daily Mail in the group chat, I was like, and I read it on the Daily Mail.
I know. I always like because I don't think the Daily Mail completely makes up the basic news story. They just take it and then like I would have loved this news story if this news story had made it through the Daily Mail. I feel like they would have tied the whale in with cancel culture, you know what I mean, or something, you know what I mean? Like leftist whale tries to eat, you know.
Tries to cancel scuba diver.
Man minding his own business.
Yeah, so no, I don't trust the Daily Mail. I feel like getting your news from the Daily Mail is like getting your news from that crackhead that hangs out at the gas station. Everyone knows the one. There's always one guy, you know, at the crappy gas station. He's gonna give you bits of like truth, but it's gonna be so lost in the weird scrambled crack brain that he has that you're gonna
never be able to decipher like what bits are true and which bits aren't. And either way, you should probably like move away from him quickly. The trick is to not make eye contact. They talk to you when you make eye contact.
Yeah.
That's
so just like keep your eyes down and go forward.
I will say though, man, I saw a cab hit a lady up here near near Union Square, New York. She's on a bike. He didn't kill her, but it bumped her pretty good. And so the cabbie's like out of his cab. The guy riding in the cab jumps out of the cab and is taking picture of the cabbie's license plate, which I felt was a little bit of a betrayal because like you're supposed to be on the cabbie's side, right? Like we're in this together. So the lady's like she's like, my knee, and like all this is happening. Meanwhile, this crackhead that had been doing something else comes over and sees it, and then escalates it only the way he could. He starts making a song. He starts going, "Oh my God, you're gonna lose your job. You're gonna go to jail. You're gonna lose your job." Like just screaming it, like. So I mean, that's the Daily Mail.
Yeah, that's the Daily.
What happened? He's gonna lose his job. Okay, but like, what happened? He's gonna go to jail. Okay, but like, I need to know I mean, you're not wrong, but like.
just more details, please. Oh, she been eaten by a whale.
That whale gonna lose its job. So Wilder, do you want to tell us about something?
Sure. Like we all want to tell someone about something, but I in particular wish to tell y'all about this background of mine, which is also as relevant to my story as your well is to yours. For are we not all lost in the darkness of this world, which is so obfuscated by the likes of the Democrats? But there's one guy who is actually making things more clear for all of us. Q, who, as we all know, is the 17th letter of the alphabet. And you know what else only happens once every 17 years? Well, the cicadas. The cicadas come back.
If you're not a crazy person, explain who Q is. Like this whole rabbit hole.
Anyway, so I was rambling because I don't have much of a story today. I have a thing about cicadas coming back, and the Q theorists are trying to say that it's significant because one of them landed on Biden, and so that's meaningful in some way. But who is Q? Q is something that a bunch of 4chaners believe in, that they've been following for a long time to try and say that Trump is secretly trying to lead the world in a crusade against the pedophilic, demon-worshipping Democrats and Hollywood elite that are trying to destroy the world.
That totally checks out. That checks out. You don't need to explain anything else.
My problem with that is like I can believe in pedophile
Who is Q?
rings.
Q is someone on the inside. He's a secret person who posts all these truth bombs, but we don't know who he is. But he's someone.
He's the Nostradamus of our times. He's posting things that you have to really like do a back
stuff like Pizzagate, right? Like Hillary Clinton runs a pedophile ring in the basement of this one pizzeria, and someone believed it enough to show up there with like a gun to try and save everyone, only to discover the pizzeria didn't have a basement. So,
or they filled it in.
Or they filled it in. Yes. If you
Um,
didn't have a basement, then why did you fill it in?
It's
my
the basement was in on it the whole
Whole
time.
the call was coming from inside the basement.
Hmm.
My issue is, like, I do believe that there are pedophile rings because they clearly exist. A lot of them are perpetrated by wealthy people. Absolutely. I just don't think that Trump is the Superman that we're looking for. I think he's part of the
He's
pedophile ring.
He is, like, him and his good buddy Jeffrey Epstein were a huge part of all that. Like, so he makes the problem, like everything, he makes the problem worse. He doesn't help. But these are also the same people that believe Trump's playing, 5-dimensional chess. And that whenever he's acting like a dumbass, it's because he's secretly trying to like slide pieces into place or delivering coded messages to his followers.
I don't know. I've lived a lot of life, and I got to say that I'm definitely subscribing to the theory that there is no overarching conspiracy because nobody is smart enough to run it. Like, you have to you have to believe in a degree of competency that our government has never, ever, ever exhibited ever at any point.
I mean, Nixon was way more competent than Trump, and even he got caught pretty easily too. Like,
Yeah.
and repeatedly.
Yeah.
And there was stuff that he did that is lesser known. Like Nixon tried to poison and kill a reporter, and not many people
Yeah.
are aware of that.
Oh well, now
But
now we know that that the Trump DOJ very early on in 2017 was keeping tabs on and pressuring Apple to give them the data of several reporters' phones.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like that broke 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That and the
Oh, I
Biden
hadn't heard
Justice
about that.
Department basically just went, like, whenever Apple was like, "Hey, are you guys still waiting for this? Because we're still not going to give it to you," and the Biden administration just went, "No, who asked for this?" And it was because the Trump administration was trying to figure out who was, like, alt White House press staffer and uh, uh, alt interior secretary on Twitter and stuff like that. Who was
Yeah.
leaking all this incredibly truthful information about Trump White House,
It was,
and they
well,
were trying to downplay it.
well, weren't the leaks all coming from his own people? Like, was it
Yeah,
everybody that was
Yeah.
around him was like,
It
yes,
was
Mr. Trump, and then they were all immediately like, hey, I got a fucking scoop
literally
for
the
you.
turnover in the White House when Trump took office was absolutely astronomical. And
Yeah.
according to a
Unprecedented.
lot of people who were there, like, whenever they got in, it was just a mad dash for take whatever office that isn't nailed down, find whatever seat that isn't nailed down, try to figure out what exactly it is you do here.
Yeah.
And
Like
it
a lot of
all
people
ebbed and
that were not only
flowed on Trump's
Me and Wilder briefly
move.
we discussed just going to Washington and
yeah, and just
wearing
applying for a job
nice,
and just showing up
yeah,
in
just
there.
wearing nice suits and being like, hey, I should be the deputy secretary of the interior, and here's why. I have a beard. I love the woods.
I just show up and be like, I love Trump. He's so bigly, and just see if
Yeah.
that would actually get us in. Just like show up, praise him, see if we can get a job there. We really felt like we could do it. Like, this is the perfect time. If you ever wanted to be Secretary of the Interior, like in your life, without
yeah.
actually working for it or knowing how to do it, now's the time to do it. And all you have to do is prove that you're incredibly incompetent at the job, and they'd give you the job. They'd give it to you. Like, if you're extremely damaging to the role that you're supposed to be performing, you get the job. Like,
It's
that's
like
how
I
we
told
operated.
I've told people, you would not believe how little I would sell out for.
Yeah.
Like, just the like, man, if somebody was like, hey, we really like what you're doing, but we'd love you to run an alt-right like media thing. We'd like you to become a bearded Candace Owens. I'd be like, you mean like you're gonna pay me to just talk like on TV about shit? Like, absolutely, I'll do it. I don't know how long I could do it. Like, I think just having to fake outrage about like dumb shit and pretending you didn't understand racism would be very emotionally taxing, but at least for a little while I'd be making some decent money.
Oh, and today the liberals are upset because the police officer killed someone. Now this criminal was there being a criminal, and all the cop did was try to restrain him reasonably with a knee to his neck, like you do. And now all the liberals are mad at him. Like,
Like, I'd have to find a way to like spin that story recently of a cop who pulled over a pregnant lady. So she did what everyone should do. She put her flashing lights on, slowed down. They were like on the interstate, so she's looking for a place to pull off that's safe. What does he do?
Oh yeah, I saw
He
this. Yeah.
speeds into her, crashes in her car, does the pit maneuver, and flips her vehicle over. So like,
Jesus
then
Christ.
he gets out and he's like, "Can you get out of the car? Why didn't you stop?" She's still in the car and she's going, "Ah, I was trying to find a safe place." Like, she's pregnant. Like, now she's like, anyway, she's suing the shit out of him, and I hope she gets her money.
Me too. Jesus
But
Christ.
I would
It'd be
have
fucking
to,
hard to read that story and then take the officer's side.
and be like, pregnant women need to
But you
learn
wanna
not
know
to
what?
drive.
But you want to know what? People will take the
yeah.
officer's side.
I mean, if I was paid like $50 an hour to just sit here and say, "Yeah, why didn't she stop?" I
Yeah.
mean, what you do if you want to justify it is you just leave out her side of the story, right?
Yeah.
Like you pretend like
Well,
that
She should
didn't
have
happen.
she
just
should
need
have
to
stopped
ignore what's
immediately and
inconvenient.
laid on the pavement. He
Yeah.
didn't know,
He didn't know she was pregnant. Oh my God, he is the
That
authority,
could have been
and you
a
listen
gun.
to the authority.
she could have been pregnant with a gun. He didn't know. It could have been a gun instead of a baby.
Now, Peter, guns don't kill people. People kill people. She could have been pregnant with a Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And how do we know
Ah.
that
That's
Mexican
how they're
baby?
coming into the country now.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. They're smuggling them
Anchor
inside
baby.
their uteruses.
Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
See, we would do a great alt-right podcast. We would just want to kill ourselves after the episode was over.
Yes.
I'd be on so many drugs after each episode aired.
I'd have
It's
to be on
just-
the drugs
it's-
before the episodes.
Yeah.
And I'd be on here like Don Jr., just like my eyes are like, oh, I'm just like hopped up on cocaine, like
Well, we all
crying
have
from
to,
all
no,
the.
you don't have to do illegal drugs. You just have to get on Ambien. Remember
Yeah.
Roseanne Barr? She blamed Ambien for
True, all of her
racist
racist
tweet.
shit.
Yeah,
That's
and
my
then
favorite.
Ambien tweeted back at her saying there are a lot of side effects of our medication that people
Racism
should be
isn't one of
aware
them.
of, and that we encourage doctors to make people aware of. However, overt racism is not one of the side effects.
I
of
would,
this.
if I was Ambien, I would have sued the shit out of her. I'd have
great.
been like, Roseanne, leave us out of your fucking mouth. Like,
I was like, oh my god, AstraZeneca just fucking clapped back, and I'm here for it. Jesus Christ.
fucking
Oh,
how
that's
fucking
great.
terrible. You're just trying to sell people some sleeping medication, and someone's like, it made me go on a racist tirade. Like, no, the fuck it didn't.
No.
We got science to prove it.
It's no, it actually didn't.
Poor Roseanne. It's
Yeah.
funny too, because Peter's like ahead of the curve here. When I was a kid, I kind of liked the Roseanne show, but Peter always hated it. Like from the
No,
get-go.
why did I want to watch my own family's life on TV? It was like blue collar poor people.
Uh-huh. Dan was cool.
Yeah, put a
Yeah.
mustache on Dan. You had my dad.
Ah, yep. So, did I have any other news?
I think you just
No,
had
that was
the,
about everything. Like, Joe Biden went to visit Boris Johnson and nothing eventful happened. So, like, that's kind of the wall that I hit here is I'm trying to like follow the news. But when our current president like doesn't do stupid shit every 5 minutes, it's really hard to like have an impressive news segment. It's like, what did he say to Boris Johnson? Normal stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Hi.
I forgot about it as soon as I
Nice
read
to
it.
meet
So,
you.
yeah.
You like shook hands. It was like, good to meet you, Mr. Johnson. Like that was it.
Well,
Like,
no, it was
they-
nice to see you again because he met him whenever he was mayor of London. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's just sort of like
there was no like there was no like he slipped and fell into the ocean and like couldn't get up.
Wasn't.
Like he fell and pulled Boris Johnson's pants down when he fell. Kind of shit. Like
Remember like when Trump went over there and he met the queen and was like walking in front of her and stuff and being rude as shit, or he went to feed the koi fish in Japan and he just like took the whole fish box because he didn't know how to feed fish, so he just threw it into the koi pond.
I'm surprised he didn't throw paper towels at him.
Yeah, like hurricane victims.
I feel like you could have put anything in his hand, and I would have. If we had become like his aides, I would have been like, "Oh, Mr. President, to feed koi fish, you have to throw this knife at them." So we would just had a video of just Trump throwing knives into a sacred koi pond. Like,
Yeah.
When you see the queen, you have to throw rice in her face. It's a
Yeah,
thing.
you have to
Just do it
remember to slap her left tit really, really hard. Just make a pop.
yeah, just like just because he's gonna do it because he doesn't know any better because
Yeah.
he doesn't know how to do anything correctly.
Exactly. He'd probably fuck it up too. He'd just like hit her right tit.
He's still there was a speech the other day. By the way, no one will air his speeches, which is great. Like not even Fox News. Fox News was like, this is old shit.
Yeah,
but
like because
apparently
Fox knows. Well, Fox has almost never aired stuff he's actually said. If you've noticed, like throughout his entire administration, they just give summaries of what he said. That way, they can spin it to make him sound like
Yeah.
a sane, reasonable person. Because
But
they
he
know
was
that people that
well,
actually
here,
listen to him are like,
clearly
"Oh
the
my god!"
president is calling for a stronger NATO, and it's just Trump going, and then we bomb Russia, and then we bomb Syria, and then we like
It's
the
usually stuff like,
spin-
and then what we do is we all look at my ratings last night because they were tremendous. Well, see,
Well-
clearly he's calling for a stronger NATO.
he went on and on about like when he was at West Point, he almost fell down a ramp. Like that was like half his speech. He was like, and by the way, that ramp
But I-
it was That rant
You're
was
talking
like,
about the rant that he like slowly did.
yeah.
Should that
Like,
it was almost 1 year ago today that happened.
yeah, he's still talking about it. Like he is like the
He
relative.
blames everyone else, and I bravely drank that water with 2 hands because I had a very nice tie on, and I didn't want to get anything
It
on
just
it.
reminds me of that pedantic stuff when you go out to like Outback with like family members, and then you've got like that old uncle who's like, I don't remember you were in high school and I couldn't get in the building, and that door was just like, no, grandpa, it was a push door and you were fucking pulling. That's the no, it was, that it was like that place was built like Fort Knox. No, you just can't read.
It was only after they let the blacks in, the doors wouldn't even open.
Yeah.
I
Like
don't know what went on. I went there. There was a black man walking with a white girl, clearly
That
showing
was one
her
of my
the way to
favorite.
her white boyfriend, I reckon.
It was one of my favorite things ever was during the Trump presidency, whenever like old white boomer conservatives would just go, we've never been so divided as a nation. You were alive for segregation.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, there
It's
was
never affected you quite so much.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there was a time in which I remember one half of the country lined up and then the other half of the country lined up and then they all shot at each other for 4 years.
Mhm.
That was pretty divisive, I think.
And that was only whenever we were 2/3 of the country we are now. So we're a whole third bigger.
It was when I was talking
Yeah.
to Sam the other day about like we were listening to a thing on the Black Plague and I go, the next time someone's like, this is the worst time to be alive, I'm gonna cough in their fucking mouth and be like, nope, 1347 was way worse, you stupid person.
Their fucking mouth.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, hey, come closer, get like real close, and then just like, like,
Oh my god.
this
Everything
is
in the past is awful.
listen,
I have a really good everything in the past is terrible.
when I got
Should I do like Pat Science Corner about the planets to lead into that, or
hold on, think about it. When I got COVID, right? Unlike
Yes.
any time in the past, I didn't just lay in a pool of my own sweat and vomit and like wait to die. Like I laid on a bed, like a giant cushiony thing of pillows, and then I Instacarted food from the store to my mouth and just waited it out. Like,
And you're telling me that that's not worse than in 1300s when you would be like laying in a pile of your own feces outside of your house?
yeah, because no
it's
one
too
wants to be
hot
around you.
inside. There's too many rats inside the house.
Yeah, no one wants to be around your sick ass. Like, this is the
No.
best. This is honestly, yeah, like
Rivers of feces used to flow through the streets, and people would walk in them and wonder why everyone's getting sick.
So, Bobby, tell us some more why the past was terrible.
Well, it's the recent past. It's within living memory, and it sort of ties into the news that I wanted to talk about today. So let me talk about that first.
Okay.
As you can see by my background, this is oh god, I'm never gonna get used to that.
Or if you're just listening to the podcast, as you can hear,
as you can
hear.
Well, my background for the YouTube portion, for the YouTube, we're on YouTube
Audience.
that you can see on YouTube is the art cover, the album cover art for Imagine Dragons Radioactive. So recently in the news, Chernobyl back in the news. We thought, well, it had its 15 minutes because HBO had a special or whatever. But so some news about Chernobyl that's recently come out is that because everybody knows the elephant foot, right? It's a giant piece of what's called corium, which is basically just a giant slurry of radioactive material and reactor parts that melted into the basement of the building. And a lot of media outlets, a lot of less than reputable media outlets did some clickbaity titles calling like, oh, the core is waking back up and all this other stuff. Well, anyway, it's actually watch on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel called Kyle Hill. He's a very handsome man, but he actually knows what he's talking about whenever it comes to nuclear physics. He's a science communicator, used to work for Nerdist, and anyway, so he put out a new episode today about it. Yes, the corium is intermittently, because we have sensors all over the building, like especially where the corium is, because we have to keep tabs on it. And it has been heating up and cooling down at much higher intervals than it has in the past. But we're not in any sort of danger of it, becoming a China syndrome where it goes down into the ground and hits the groundwater and explodes again and everything. And this actually has a lot to do with the the recent deployment of a giant shield over the whole site. So reactor number 4 for since about 1989 had been covered in what was known as the sarcophagus. Now the sarcophagus was basically built as quickly as fucking possible to cover the exposed reactor core so that it would stop, leaking radioactivity everywhere.
Right.
And it did its job. It stopped most of the harder stuff from getting out, but it was just a start. And then the Soviet Union collapsed, and everybody was kind of like, oh God, little Ukraine is probably not going to be able to afford to put this all together. So it's taken until, I believe it was last year, that the new shield has gone in place. And part of the plan is to dismantle and dispose of on site the original sarcophagus, and then to also disassemble the whole reactor building and eventually the reactor itself and eventually the corium, and dispose of them on site under this shield and right near it in shielded undertakings in order to clean up the site essentially and make sure that we don't have what we were having before the shield went into place, which is the reason why we've started seeing spikes in radioactivity in the areas of the plant that are filled to the brim with corium. And this is because the old sarcophagus was so poorly built. Of course, it was built as fast as fucking possible. It was just meant to keep radiation from coming out, not necessarily to keep other things from getting in. And one thing that got in a lot was water. Well, you might be saying to yourself, well, what effect would water have? Well, water in a nuclear reactor is the moderator. And basically what it does is, so how nuclear fission works is you have one atom that splits and a neutron shoots off at a fast speed. Now, if there's no moderator to slow that neutron down, it's not going to hit anything. It's moving too fast, and it's just going to keep going. And that's where we get radiation. That's free neutrons is what happens there. It's what makes you sick. It's what fucks up your DNA. It's what kills the grass and makes children cry. And Charleston Heston, oh my God, you really did it. You blew it all up.
You maniacs.
So as the water was getting into the building through the sarcophagus, the water was landing around the corium and pooling. And like we actually have pictures and videos from inside corium areas of the plant that aren't, near the elephants, but the really bad shit, where it's literally almost waist deep water in these basement sublevels. And water started to act as a moderator, and some fissile material was reacting with it. And so we were seeing spikes and stuff. So now what we're seeing with the shield over the top, this giant, this shield is so fucking big. It is taller than the Statue of Liberty plus her pedestal, and it is wider than the Colosseum in Rome. This thing is fucking huge.
Well, the fact that internationally, like we've never been like, hey guys, maybe we should all throw in a couple of bucks and
no, that's exactly what happened. Is everybody has chipped in. It's like a huge United Nations thing that's happened there. And same with Japan. Japan asked for help with Fukushima. United States, 3 Mile Island's been decontaminated. We're fine over there. But anyway, so because 3 Mile Island was nowhere near as bad as Fukushima or Chernobyl.
Sure.
Anyway, so what we're seeing now and why it made a scientific paper that the corium was spiking in radioactivity was because it was unusual that now that the moderator has been almost completely removed, this rainwater that had gotten in has been almost completely removed, that we were still seeing some spikes. And it was basically a paper about, hey, isn't that kind of funny how that's happening? Less than reputable newspapers and websites took that to mean it's going to blow again. everybody freaked the fuck out. And I just, I wanted to share the story and the
Well,
update on it, because like so
it's
many people, I actually did have a couple of people send me the article and go, "You're smart. Tell me if this is something I should have to worry about." And the answer is no. No,
it's
you
just,
really don't. You
it's the
really
same
don't.
way,
But
we talked about like they'll less than reputable news places will take like scientific papers and they'll just pull a headline, like they'll do a thing where they're like, it turned out that based on this scientific study, these people
vaccines cause autism.
these people that
Yeah.
consume bacon also saw a reduction in the cholesterol or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, bacon reduces cholesterol, everybody eat bacon. It's like, no, it's not what they're fucking saying. They're just like, is it this interesting? We don't know if this is
Yeah.
connected. Yeah, like
But that
They're-
leads me into everything in the past was terrible. Within living memory, everything in the past was terrible. During the Chernobyl disaster, which, it wasn't just a one day, one night thing. And I'm really glad, that's part of the reason why I'm glad the HBO series came out, because it kind of really showed people this was not like a one day thing. This is still going on.
well, weren't the
It's
people that
still
live
being
next to
cleaned
it
up,
like
but,
weren't the people that live next to it like it was spewing radiation for like a week and they're like, I don't know why my hair is falling out and my teeth are loose and my gums they bleed. Like
well,
And when
they
I
got
pee,
they
it
got
shines in
the
the light, in the
children.
dark.
They got the children out of Pripyat fairly quickly. It was like by day 3,
that's
but
still a
it was
lot of
also
time.
sort of
Yeah.
catatonic, stunned disbelief of an RKM reactor cannot explode. And part of the reason why they thought an RKM reactor can't explode is because it's not a pressurized vessel. It's not a pressurized reactor, and that's part of the
Right.
reason why they thought it couldn't explode. Well, anyway, everything in the past was terrible. You know those liquidators that you saw in the HBO special, the people that came in to help clean it up and go out onto the roof of Chernobyl and throw stuff, and it was like, you can only last 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Yeah, the part they left out of the HBO special was the Soviet government telling these men it's either 2 minutes on the roof of this broken reactor or 2 years service in Afghanistan. You choose.
I think I would choose Afghanistan.
I don't know. I think
it's
I
less
would choose
deadly.
reactor, but every single one of the liquidators is dead.
Yeah.
So
See, people come back
It's a
from
death
Afghanistan.
sentence.
People don't come back from Chernobyl.
not a lot of people, man. Afghanistan is where empires go to die.
I'm more
Afghanistan
comfortable.
is what broke the Soviet Union along with Chernobyl, and Afghanistan is sure as hell was there. There is a grave to the British Empire there as well.
I just
Alexander too.
I just think
Yeah.
that I'm more comfortable dying in a way I understand, like getting shot in the fucking face, than like slowly being like, well, I guess one of my organs is working its way out of my armpit right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
But everything in the
yeah.
past was terrible. Hooray! Are we doing wet sleep letter now?
It was what was really touching in Japan during the Fukushima disaster. They had old people volunteering to go do the work on site because they were like, listen, collectively, we're old, we've had kids, we've lived our life. Chances
We've
are
lived our lives.
we have a
why let you
shortened
young folks throw your lives away?
exactly. They're like, we
Damn.
have a shortened lifespan. We're like 60. These people are going to live a lot longer, so it's going to affect us less. So we're going to volunteer. Like, and it's like that spirit of volunteerism. You're like, oh my god, that's nice. Too bad that
That's
boomers.
actually part of how China contained the coronavirus as quickly as they did. A lot of people are like, oh, China was faking the coronavirus. Look, they didn't even get affected by it. It was a biological. No. See, what had happened was a incredibly centralized authority government can do things that a federalized, divided into 50 states with 50,000 different opinions country can't do. And it's what China did, which was they deputized the elderly. They literally took people who were retired nurses, retired doctors, retired veterinarians, retired pediatricians, retired nurses assistants and teaching aides and school nurses and stuff like that. And they said, okay, we need you for the next 8 months. You're going to go live in this neighborhood with this housing project in it. And your job is to enforce that everyone, when they come home from work, get a temperature check before they go into the building. You are required to get to know every single person in this building and get to know their idiosyncrasies and learn and study them to see if anyone is coming down with the virus. Now, if they come down with the virus, you have to alert the local health ministry immediately, quarantine them in their apartment and go buy them groceries and put them on the list, and we'll make sure that their rent and utilities are completely fucking covered while they're under quarantine, and we'll get them a test. That's how China defeated the virus. They deputized the elderly.
And they do. I feel like China does have more fuck around and find out than we do. I feel like all of this, like, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm gonna act crazy. I feel like in China, you just get drug away and disappeared, and then we never have to see fucking like anti-masker.
Well, that's also how like Cuba has not. I think it's been something like 40 years since Cuba has had someone die in a hurricane, and part of the reason for that is, in Cuba, a mandatory evacuation means if you don't come willingly, we will bring you to jail at the evacuation site. Right. So figure it out.
You know, it bothers me that like, you know, a really good kind of like centralized, almost fascist thing, if you're not basing it on weird like racial, let's kill everybody, or if you harness fascism for the common good, it can be handy. It just always goes sideways, and someone's like, why don't we kill all people with auburn hair?
Well, yeah, that's what makes fascism different from authoritarianism. Fascism has elements of authoritarianism, but it is not itself entirely authoritarian.
Yeah. So today's Dear Wesley, speaking of authoritarianism and whatnot, it takes place
because Wesley's word is law.
It takes place in Sydney, Australia. Two men confronted a group of teenagers on a Sydney train, threatening to shove the school kids' phones up their asses after they ignored multiple requests to stop blasting music.
Up their own asses? Like, I'm going to take your phone and put it so far up my own ass, I'm going to feel those good vibrations.
And that is exactly the misunderstanding that Wesley would have made.
Right. Footage
What
posted
they need to do
online.
is just go ahead and go for it and put the phone on vibrate.
Have yourself a good time. Spam call. Footage online shows a man storming over to the group of students sitting in the corner, and playing a loud rap song on their phone. And apparently they say, huh? What did you say to me? The man asked as he approaches the boys before, I guess since this is in Sydney, he yells, turn down the music, cunts. Because I guess that's a thing they can say. I think it means different stuff in Sydney and England than it does over here. They certainly say it a lot more.
They say it a lot more. It's not considered as strong a word over there as it is over here. For whatever reason, they just decided that it's the same thing as saying bitch, bastard, whatever.
The man
like
also
words that
says,
don't really offend people that much.
It also goes, want me to jam it up your ass, the man seeds? And the boy replies, can you not touch it? The man starts screaming to turn it down, pointing his hand in the boys' faces before he's joined by another man who also starts shouting at the teens. You're not on the playground anymore, the second man scolds. Turn it down, I'm sick of your shit. These two guys must have stepsons. The first man continues, adding, or I'm going to jam it up your ass. And so
do they have drywall to punch in Britain? I don't know the custom there.
I feel like it's all plaster over there.
Oh no, I was gonna have a terrible time.
I fucking warned you. You're not in school anymore. You're on a train with adults. Now learn your lesson. And the boy's like, I'm turning it off. And
okay.
So then the guys return to their seats. So I guess
is that the end of the story?
Yeah. So the Dear Wesley question is, on public transit, what is the right? What is your right to like complain if somebody else is making being on public transit like unbearable?
I mean, if they didn't put their hands on the kids, right?
No, they just threatened to fucking anally insert the kids' phones into their asses.
I mean, I've always believed that like someone else's rights always like end where my nose begins. So like if they want to actually throw a punch, or where my ass begins.
I love that the clear and present ass doctrine.
yeah.
Listen, if speech can be considered a danger, your freedom of speech and movement ends where my fucking butthole begins. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, they didn't put their hands on the kids. So all right. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's bad. It seems like they didn't like the loud music. Let me tell you, I'm kind of on the shouty guy side because my neighbors like to blast music on their front porch for some reason. They'll literally step outside and just play music so goddamn loud, or they'll sit in their cars and play it so goddamn loud when I'm trying to go to sleep or am asleep or was asleep at like 3 a.m. And I'm like, oh my dear God. And literally how I've dealt with it in the past, like, because I've never been sure what to do. So like sometimes they're out there doing it for so long, I'll turn on my car alarm and see if that'll make them fuck off. Or one time I went outside and I brought, that one song, the hey yeah 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 song on YouTube.
Yeah.
I cry sometime when I'm lying in bed to get all out what's in my head and I feel a little confused. That song, I'll
Yeah.
put that on my phone and just play it at full blast on my own porch until they like get annoyed by it and go inside or something, right? Like people that just play music super loud for hours on end drives me fucking insane because I can't go to sleep. I hear it way too well.
You don't ever come out and go, oi, cunts, I'm gonna shove that fucking car up your ass.
I'm not that confrontational, so I kind of admire these people for being as such.
I mean, I don't know, man. I take, New York, you take public transit all the time. It's like, it's horrible, but you just kind of like fucking deal with it. Also, because people on New York trains are, and you don't.
I mean,
know
I
what,
do. The fantasy is to be brave enough to deal with it. So these people kind of live that for me. I'm living vicariously through them.
I think Sydney's a little different because in New York, there's a possibility they turn it off, or there's a possibility that they would stab you in the neck with a fucking screwdriver. Like,
if they did that, I would have a very different answer for this story.
That's the thing with New York. You don't necessarily know who you're fucking with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because generally the guy that is blasting music on the subway is also a guy that would not mind fucking popping your eyeballs out of your face. Like there's kind of a weird correlation. Or teenagers, because their frontal lobes are not completely what do you call it? Done baking. They're not developed. Teens love to beat the shit out of people, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would probably just grin and bear it. I would just put my own headphones on and be like, and go on the next car or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So what would Wesley do, Pete?
I think Wesley would be like, oh, you can threaten to shove your phones up their ass and their phones up your ass. And then you could call each other.
With the vibrate on high, then it'd be a good time.
Yeah.
It'd be something like
everyone shoves a phone up their ass and then does a Zoom call.
Touch each other's assholes.
Yeah. That's all it is. Just a neighborly, just touch each other's buttholes. That's what the world needs more of,
It'd be like they're talking to my dad, talking to one big asshole.
Yeah, I also think that, like, even if someone's annoying you, I don't know if you necessarily have the right to go threaten and shout at them, even if they're being a prick. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like there's also a lot of like, I'm a middle-aged white man and I have the right to call people cunts when they do something I don't like. I feel like there's a little bit of that.
I should say that I'm picturing everyone involved as being white. It would probably change if it was like white people yelling at black people. I'd be like, oh, that seems a bit not right. I don't know.
I do like that the second middle-aged man was just like, oh, fuck yes, and like jumped in too. Like
he was only brave because the other guy was.
I do like it that he said, quote, I'm tired of your shit. And I'm like, somebody's teenage son is not doing what he's supposed to do at all. Somebody's taking their fucking day out.
So I'm taking the shouty guy's side. Peter's on the teen side. Bobby, you're the tiebreaker.
I'm on the side of public transportation.
Oh no. All three sides have been represented.
See, isn't it great because of public transportation that all these people get to meet together and mix it up and share ideas and whatnot?
Oh my God, that's Wesley's answer.
Yeah.
Oh, well, see, isn't it wonderful that all these new friends met each other and they get to do fun stuff together?
It's the great cauldron of democracy, public transit.
The great cauldron of democracy, one big asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
You can put things in it. It's great.
No, I just learned recently. This is also well, everything in the past was terrible. Give me two, because this is the thing that's really pissed me off this week.
Go for it.
So there was an article recently in, I want to say USA Today, but it was jumping off of a Times-Picayune article coming down on the city government of New Orleans. Now, New Orleans, I'm from Louisiana. I'm not from New Orleans. New Orleans is known for, party atmosphere, tourism, and crippling poverty. And sometimes those things sort of intersect. So recently, as in, I want to say the last 10 years, so New Orleans has currently, with the St. Charles Carrollton streetcar line, is the oldest operating passenger rail service in the world, like continually operating passenger rail service in the world. It started with horse-drawn carriages, then it got electrified, and then later on, and we all hear these stories about like, the oh my god, I threw up a little. Anyway,
Past was terrible,
yeah,
nauseating even.
the past was terrible. We all hear the backstories of like, they tore out all the streetcar lines, so General Motors bought them all up and tore them out so that everybody would have to buy cars. In New Orleans, it's a bit worse. So in the 1940s, they started tearing out the streetcar lines and replaced them with trolley buses. And for people who don't know what a trolley bus is it's essentially, it takes all the upsides of a city bus and all the upsides of a streetcar or tram. So they're electric. They run off of catenaries that are overhead, typically two. One will be a positive bar, one will be a negative bar, and the bus's little antennae that stick out to meet these will it'll draw down from the positive and feed back to the negative. And why electric trains only have one instead of two is because they're using the rails as the negative, so that you have the constant power flow going through with electrified trains. Anyway, so New Orleans had, in North America, we barely edged out Chicago for the most amount in miles of trolley bus lines. And in 1969, we were told they can no longer be segregated. And the city of New Orleans decided, great, no public transit for anyone, and tore down the most extensive, fully electrified, like it was green and had been green for generations, and replaced it with an unreliable, very spotty bus service. And recently, in the last 10 years, the city council, neoliberal, tourist fucking as they are, extended, or rather reconstructed, a historic streetcar line down Loyola Avenue into the Tremaine neighborhood. All of, I want to say it's a 5-mile line, and they spent something north of $30 million on it. Do you realize how much bus infrastructure $30 million would buy, other than this little tourist curiosity?
Similarly, and I don't know if it's still there, does the city of Savannah still have their fucking trolley on River Street that they spent all that money on, and it only runs the length of River Street?
No.
It's gone?
It's not there anymore. Like, the line is still there. They spent all this money it ran for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. They suspended service. It hasn't been back since. And now with the whole Kessler collection built up on the upriver end of River Street, where they turned that old power station into essentially a collection of nightclubs and quasi-racist, questionably racist restaurant choices. And several hotels, because that's what River Street needs, more hotels.
And more
I don't know if
racism.
it's coming back, because whenever they redid the streets, they buried the streetcar tracks.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, because I remember when they it was a big to do. We're gonna bring back the streetcar in Savannah. I was like, oh cool, is it gonna do like a loop, like maybe it goes like Broughton Street, like around, nope, it just runs
gonna
the link.
shuttle back and forth from one end of River Street to the other,
and we're gonna
and it's
spend
gonna run on diesel, by the way, because you can't have catenary lines obscuring the view of the shitty river from the street.
So basically, it's going to be a giant diesel electric fucking trolley car that goes 1/4 of a mile, and now we spent millions of dollars, and then we just buried the tracks because, that's responsible. Yeah, no, the past was terrible.
The past was terrible. The past was terrible.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
That's some terrible
I think
shit.
that's what we're going to end it on today.
Yeah.
What do we want to plug, guys?
The YouTuber that I was talking about before, it's real simple. Go look up Kyle Hill on YouTube. He's got a really good show. Basically, it's essentially he and his AI super intelligence named Arya, and they're going through like science problems and stuff like that. It's Bill Nye for adults,
Oh, that's cool.
basically. Like he tested out whether or not Link from Ocarina of Time's weighted boots would have really kept him on the bottom of the water level, so that he wouldn't
Nice.
float. He could actually, he actually had a suit made, and also Goku's weighted suit. How difficult would it be to walk around with 3 times your body weight on your clothing? And turns out he's like, yeah, I can't do this. It was like he took several steps into a public park and was just like, oh, this was a bad idea. This is a very, very bad idea.
What's funny is
I
have a 45-pound weight vest, and like 45 pounds, that's like a big bag of dog food. But like boy,
dog shit.
Just
hurt your spine to wear that thing for a long time.
Yeah, just wandering around with an extra 45 pounds is like, oh my God, like this is I did not think this would be this bad. You know what I mean? Like Jesus Christ.
And if you look at Kyle Hill, he's like he's fit. Like he's not like a bodybuilder or something, but he like actually, takes care of himself, unlike, me. But like, it's he's got a really good channel, but this is every once in a while he'll have a bit more of a serious episode. But like, like basically professionally trained science communicator, really awesome channel. Like I said, it's like Bill Nye, but for adults.
For a long time, I didn't trust science communicators because I went to a children's like live event in Savannah when I was a kid, and it was like a Mr. Wizard thing. And I got pulled out of the audience with these other people to hold on to these little like electrode things. We all made a chain, and then he pulled the curtain off of a switch and electrocuted all of us. So as a child, as like a 7-year-old, I was electrocuted by Mr. Wizard, and I never
learned not to trust science.
Education.
So learn.
That's why you have Pete's Science Corner to get your revenge. That's why everything you've ever hated.
It was made in a lab. Masks don't work. Vaccines cause autism. Mr. Wizard electrocuted me, and I'll never trust anyone again.
Speaking of science, I want to pitch.
That's why there's so much science denial in this country. Mr. Wizard just went around in the 80s and 90s.
Shocking all the Southern boys like yourself. Oh no, you just managed to rise above.
Or maybe that's why I'm not racist, because I got shocked as a child.
It burned out your frontal lobe from an early age before the Southern could set in.
Yeah, people are like, why did I absorb racism from the South? I got electrocuted pretty bad by Mr. Wizard as a child.
Electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
Speaking of science and pitching YouTube channels, I'd like to pitch Food Theory this week because they had an amazing episode that I thoroughly enjoyed. I love all of their episodes. Like every single thing on that channel is amazing. That's just Food Theory. Type it in, you'll find it. The most recent episode was about whether or not Doritos is ripping you off, because it's 18 or like 16 to 18% chips in the bag, and the rest of it is over 80% air. And every bag of Doritos you buy, it's mostly air, or more specifically, it's CO2, or not CO2. It's CO2. Anyway, so you're saying, is it ripping you off because there's so few chips? Why isn't it full of chips? Turns out it's not deceptive packaging. Like, this is a spoiler for the end of the video, but it just blew my mind. It is not deceptive packaging. Because what they did is they took a bunch of Dorito bags and they removed all of the intact Dorito chips, because there's a lot more broken chips in every bag than whole ones. Once they had nothing but whole Dorito chips, they took the number of Dorito chips that should be in one bag and filled up one bag, and they couldn't even fit all the chips in it, no matter how they tried to angle them. They actually do completely fill up the bags with unbroken chips and seal it up, but just in transit it breaks up. They all break and crumble, and it all falls to the bottom of the bag. But they break the fewest number of chips, sealing it the way they do with how much air is in it. If they overfill it, more breaks. If they underfill it, more breaks. Because they ran like durability tests on these now filled with unbroken chips bags, and they discovered, yes, with this amount of air, the least number of chips breaks, and they start with the maximum capacity number of unbroken chips in them. That Doritos doesn't rip you off. They really don't.
These we should have a segment at the very end of this called like we debunk fucking things that baby boomers bitch about.
Yeah, like there's too much air in the chip bag.
Right? They only get. Why isn't the bag full of chips? Back when I was a day, you reached your arm elbow deep into a barrel full of chips at Old Man Weatherford's store and got you as many chips as you wanted.
Yeah. That was a wonderful episode. I loved it. And anyway, yeah, that's what I wanted to pitch. That and this show and the Dust Belt books. Those still
I'm copy editing. I'm actually reading it.
Do you think that you get bad karma for every time you say that, or like every individual time, or is there just like one really big bad karma for saying, "Oh, I'll read it this week," and then you don't?
No, I mean I'm actively reading it, but I'm also in like working my way through my grad school class is fucking fascinating right now.
You weren't 5 years ago when I wrote it.
I'm actually about to do a giant paper on immigration policies and how mass deportations negatively affect the economy, which I'm excited about.
They negatively affect the fuck out of the children because, you know, all the people that Trump or all the children that Trump kidnapped are still fucking traumatized over that. Many of them like still cry themselves to sleep at night for memory of being kidnapped. And also like, are there still thousands of them that we still haven't found their families?
I mean, at this point, like
that was a fucking atrocity that happened. Why aren't we still complaining about that?
Because I feel like we haven't.
People are. They're making little cute little memes about how, oh, here it was under Trump, and then the same picture. Here it is under Biden. I'm like, yeah, but under Trump, they were actively separating all of the children at the border. Under Biden, they are not.
I will.
Like it might have happened a couple times,
but he's not a fucking fascist. They're with some idiot leftists who haven't read any fucking literature.
It might have happened by chance. It might have happened by chance under Obama that some kids were separated from their parents. But Trump had a specific policy of cruelty in place to mandate that happens. That's the biggest difference. That Trump said it must happen.
The right was quick to pounce on it. They were so quick to pounce on it. Well, this was a thing that was made up under Clinton, and then Bush W did it, and Obama did it, and y'all didn't seem to have a problem. Okay, then
ICE was invented under Bush.
Then why did Jeff Sessions have to make an executive order for the Justice Department in order for it to start? Was there something different about it? Oh, so what was happening under Clinton and Bush W and Obama, and what is happening right now under Biden is that if a border agent or ICE or whoever the fuck finds the kids at the border thinks they're being sexual slavery trafficked, they can be separated from the adults that they are there with to meet with a social worker. What Trump did was say, no, all the children.
Yeah,
every last one of them. That's
we'll do it if you want. We'll do a whole episode.
Sorry, that is just really fucking.
We'll do a whole episode on immigration policies because, like I said, I'm about to have to write about it for this class, which is it's going to be interesting. The other thing I wanted to pitch was if you like podcasts and you like history. My absolute favorite. I mean, he doesn't need me to pitch him, but Dan Carlin, who does Hardcore History, just dropped part 5 or 6 of a series on it's called Supernova in the East about the war in the Pacific, and this latest one is 5 hours long, and I am like so excited to get started and just like sit there and just listen to his 5 hours of amazing commentary on that war.
Man, I wish I had that kind of time. It took me 4 days to watch a 1 hour YouTube video on Mother 3 this week.
Most of my time is reading about right now about why Herbert Hoover was such a fucking dick. Like he was bad. He had a great quote when they were like later on, because he lived till like 1964, and somebody was like, you were a pariah and an outcast from your own party and considered a failed president. How did you end up having so much influence on like the conservative movement of the Republican Party? And he goes, I outlived the bastards. Yeah. So history is he did, and
he outlived the fuck out of them.
Yeah, so fucking living well or living as an asshole is the best revenge, I always say.
Yeah.
I feel like McConnell has achieved the latter. Like he's never gonna die.
Eventually we'll all die, and McConnell will be like, no, I get to rewrite the mankind's history.
We really need to start thinking about the planet we're going to leave behind for Keith Richards and Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll see you next week when I remember to tell you that story about why I might be sterile from visiting a nuclear power plant as a child.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.